Okay, so I feel like kind of crossing into slightly sketchier territory at the moment. I've mentioned that while I didn't feel like my mom would go snooping through my stuff just yet, I still felt a while back like it was time to put a lock on my computer. So if I walked away from it or whatever, it would go to the lock screen. Um, and I feel like that's a very useful thing. And okay, so like I was in my office writing, like I pulled some of the one of my card decks, pulled some cards from it, and I wanted to remember them, so I'm writing them down into the journal, right? Twin Flame Journal. Been tracking everything as I've been going through it for the past year and a half, almost 2 years now. Um, just like whatever comes up. Thoughts, cards that I've pulled that were extremely relevant, thoughts on the cards that I pulled, other things that are going on, stuff you journal about, right? Um, so I was writing the cards down, and I look up, and my mother has entered into my office and has closed the door behind her. And it felt sketchy. She was talking about how, because we had this conversation where she was getting ready to do laundry again, and I said, "You're doing a lot of laundry anymore." And she agreed, obviously, because, we don't want the house to smell like a nursing home, and since my dad keeps peeing all over the place, even though maybe um, it's not something he can really control or whatever, it still is fucking making the house smell like a goddamn nursing home. So she's trying to handle that, right? Um, or try to keep it from getting worse or whatever. So anyway, I just commented that she was doing a lot of laundry, and then she had said, or she had mentioned that, and then she randomly comes into my office and shuts the door behind her to proceed to say that she doesn't care. She doesn't feel or have a problem with cleaning up after him if he would only help. But he doesn't help with anything. He makes it to where it's like extra complicated to do anything. It's just really silly shit, but not really new shit. Because I've talked many times about the leaving trash and dirty dishes and all that stuff everywhere. It's worse now, but it's not new, because he's always had that sort of idea that somebody else is going to have to clean up after him. We're just going to have to figure that out, right? So it's like that has always been there, but now, since he let himself be more of a fruitcake, if you will, since he chose to take himself off of his medications and ended up having several strokes, and then chose again to take himself off his CPAP machine for 2 weeks and have another stroke, elevator don't go all the way up, right? So there's no way I don't think he could stay at home unsupervised for an extended period of time. I think 2 or 3 hours, maybe, but that still might be asking a lot. Especially when it comes to having dogs, and one that potentially, if she goes out the front door, probably won't come back real easy, because she's scared of shit of everything and doesn't come to people. She's not trained at all, and obviously, going again to that point on the dog I didn't want, because I knew any of the training that did happen would fall on me to do, right? So, so anyway, so it's like, if that dog were to get out the front door, then probably wouldn't get her back. It would be very difficult. And he's had this, okay, there were 2 occasions when I was watching my aunt's corgi over a week and a half, And that was because those were the only times that she was remotely unsupervised in the house. And it was the first time I was running over to my storage unit to get my window AC out of it, and my mom had asked my dad to shut the big door so the little dog did not jump on it and push it open because it doesn't latch. So instead of pushing the big door shut in the house, that's literally all it is, shut the door, right? It would not have been that complicated. Instead, what he does is go over and push the screen door open, or the glass door open, and little Corgi gets out. So I'm backing out of the driveway and have to stop because I see her running toward me. It's like, cool. Luckily, she was easy to catch. Then there was another time he did it again, and it was, I think there had been an Amazon delivery right before my mom and I were going, or we had just gotten back home and we're pulling into the driveway to be home, right? It was in the evening. Amazon got there and they were in the spot that I was going to park the car in, so I pulled a little further away so they could next to the driveway, so they could, finish what they were doing, back out, and leave without an issue, and then I would just pull into the spot. In that time frame, because of course the dogs were barking because there was an Amazon delivery, and then the dogs were barking because we were home, and they knew we were home, and then we were getting out of the car, and he opens the door and stands with it wide open again, letting the damn dog out again, actually letting more than one. Yesterday, I don't even know what I was doing, but I had gotten back home, and he did the same thing with Ziva. And Ziva's not a problem. She's 12. She's been with me since she was like 3 months old, so she's mine. She's going to me. She was hungry. She wanted her food, so she wasn't going to go anywhere. She came straight over to me. But still, we don't need to make a habit of letting the dogs out the front door, right? So if he's doing this kind of stupid shit, obviously he can't be unsupervised. Is the biggest thing. And it's just a big pain in the ass. But anyway, so she comes in my room and shuts the door, and I immediately had this sense that this is something she's in the process of getting a little more snoopy. So where I had that inclination to put the lock screen on my computer, and then it's like I didn't feel like we were at a point where she was going to try to look at my computer. I am at the point that moving stuff out that I've been doing is pretty essential at this point, because I don't know how much snooping she's going to be doing. So the journals, my twin flame books, if you will, I am currently on the 16th one, and I got this sense when I was like leaving the house. It's like that's the next thing I'm going to pack up. It's like I've been thinking about them for a while. Those I don't want her going through, because then she gets insight to what's been going on for me, and the work that I've been doing on myself, and the irritation with the family stuff, like the deeper extents of that, the fact that I'm doing this whole YouTube thing, the videos and whatnot. Stuff about that is in there. Because like I wasn't doing the journaling on a daily basis like I am now. It was January of 2024 that I started prioritizing that. And there's been just like a small handful of days that I have been skipped at all. But so I didn't talk about like the first 3 subscribers and I cried, and I've talked about that on here a ton. I have mentioned it, but it wasn't in the moment of coping with that stress, where I cried. But I don't know, I just had this really strong sense that it is time to get stuff moving out of there, like, really seriously. So yesterday I didn't end up doing a video, and I had planned on it, but the appointment that I was supposed to take my dad to ended up getting postponed until next week. Excuse me. And because of that, ended up not, well, it was raining all day, so I didn't come over here to do the thing. I thought about it, but it just wasn't something that I felt like, ooh, this is a have to right now. It was more, it is raining, I don't really want to go anywhere, this would be a good day to pack some shit. So I did. And I think that's going to be part of that mom getting on the snoopier end of things too, because I mean, I went through my bedroom and I took most of the pictures I had on the walls down, right? And I took a bunch of pictures of the frames that I was putting up for storage. 11:11. I took pictures of them and posted them on Instagram because I know I've shared some of them before, but not a whole lot, and I just wanted to have a little, this is what I do, this is my art kind of a thing, right? Before I was packing them up. So I didn't take everything down, but I did take a ton down. The walls are busy enough that I'm not sure how noticeable it really is, which is honestly works in my favor, with everything considered. But still, like, I notice it because, there were my Edgar Allan Poe quotes, and there was a couple of those. There was the Raven poem. I have that framed, and it was hanging up on the wall. Had this one about writing. That's a big relevant piece that I will get to here shortly. But yeah, I just went through, and then I packed all of those up. And there was this, so when I was in high school, all my band shirts and whatnot, my mom wanted something to do with my band stuff because I was into it, but I wasn't going, I wore the crap out of most of it while I was in band, of course, and in school in general, but beyond that, I wasn't going to keep wearing that, so she decided to do this little thing for remembering the stuff, I guess. Honestly, most of them could have just been burned and it would have been okay. My favorite shirt is on there, and I wore the crap out of that thing. It actually looks a lot like this, except for instead of the pedals, it was mallets, like marimba mallets. And, the color spectrum and everything. So that's kind of an interesting thought that I'm just now connecting to. But that was my favorite shirt. In the center it said, Musser, whatever. And yeah, I wore the crap out of that thing. So that one didn't hold up really well. So putting it on a shirt, it was really thin, or on a blanket, because she had somebody put them all together on this quilt. And then of course it's got a little, I think it's some Bible verse from Psalms. I saw that yesterday because I was packing these frames up in this blanket because right now I can't just burn the blanket, just for the sake of, probably be noticeable. Somebody probably say something to my mom, and then it'd be kind of annoying to have to deal with. So currently using it for packing picture frames and whatnot, and when I get to wherever I'm going, it could probably be burned and it's not going to hurt my feelings. So yeah, but for now, it's got stuff packed in it. And then I have this box that I packed some little odds and ends that I have on my shelves, little decoration pieces. and I pulled some of the ones on the top of my hutch down. Just whatever I could fit into the thing. So my Halloween owl skeleton, it got packed up before Halloween. That's kind of sad. But whatever. It's like I've been talking for a while. It's time to pack up like I'm moving in sometime in the near future. Because I know that it's like coming. I just don't know how it's going to come about or what exactly is going to come together for me on that end. But I know that it's coming and it's not far off. But now that I feel like she's crossing over into the space where she's trying to get into my space more, because it wasn't an immediate thing either. Like there was another time it seemed like this big weird thing where she just like walked in my room and like came like half in and was just like looking. Okay, because how my desk is set up, I have, okay, so it's one of those L-shaped desks or whatever. I mean, it's not really an L because it's equal sides, but one side is up against the wall, the other is out in the middle of the room, and I sit behind that, right? So I can see the door, I can see the TV, and I can see anybody coming at me, right? Because I've talked on here a lot about how anytime I've been at my computer trying to do the YouTube stuff, upload videos and whatnot, it's like, I don't want them being able to see what I'm doing, right? So there's a very brief span of time where I had my desk in one corner, and it's like, usually I could hear them coming up. It was early enough in the thing that it was very short-lived. Having my desk arranged that way. I was like, nah, I don't trust them. I don't want them coming up behind me to see what I would be doing. And yeah, they absolutely would. But it was just like that. It's like energetically, they were just kind of testing the boundaries. Do I freak out when they do this? So like, I didn't freak out when she came in the room earlier. I was like, but I didn't say anything. But there again, it's like, that's something maybe I should, I probably will if she does it again. Or, well, see, I don't know. I just feel like it's time to move stuff out more. So of course, the journals, I occasionally go back and look for information through, or if I find something like, okay, the concert tickets that I've talked about, like the one concert that I was looking forward to for a really long time, and then the pandemic happened, and then it got postponed from May to November, and then in like September, they ended up canceling it completely, and I don't know, September, October, yeah, I don't know, whatever was going on with the pandemic in 2020, they were just like, yeah, we're just going to cancel it. So it was, I was pissed because that was one I was looking forward to, but it's like, this supports my storytelling part of that, right? So it's like, that's important and hugely relevant. So I went ahead and put those. Luckily, the one journal that I was writing in, I think I was talking about that, and it's like, hey, I just found them. So they had a pocket in it, so they went into the pocket. Not all of them have pockets. That one did. But yeah, but it's like, yeah, now that I know this is a thing, I did get all the rest of my books packed up, with the exception of one. it was on this thing by my desk, and it's like, I'm probably going to want that. Well, there's more than one, but there's just like a few of them, and it's like, yeah, I keep going back to these, so I am not ready to be done with them yet. So those are staying out for me. But like, otherwise, those journals, yeah, they're getting packed up, and I think they will probably go in the footlocker that I can put a padlock on. Even though, well, I mean, no, I don't need to if it's just going to my storage area. But I probably will. I don't know. Give me something to do with that lock. And I'll just put the key on the thing with my other lock for the storage unit door. So, yeah, but like just that whole thing just felt really, it's like the energy, just the energy around it. It's like, we have shifted. So, yeah. And as I was on my way over here, I just had this thought of, okay, basically, like, I don't know if this is a callback to a past life or probably, but with this scenario, it's like I imagined being in, like, you know, like the era of the Salem witch trials, and, you know, your family gets concerned about something you're doing, and so they, you know, they report you as doing something sketchy, and then, you know, of course, they didn't care about keeping anybody alive. Their method back then was, okay, for like one example, okay, but they burn you alive. If you didn't die by the fire, then you're a witch. If you did die, like humans would, then you weren't a witch. And then it was okay because, you know, your death in that situation proved that you were not a witch, right? So then you got cleared that way. It was like, no chance of living. Fuck that, right? But like, more so, you know, they did the same with like drowning in some instances. And so if you drowned, then you weren't a witch. If you didn't drown, you were a witch. And then they'd have to kill you another way. Right? So like that kind of stuff. And it's like I just had this, while I was thinking about this energy with my mother of coming into my room and shutting the door behind her, that was the callback that I got, was of being in like the witch trials or something and getting accused of something because they were not comfortable with something, or because the church had them all afraid of everything, that that you know, that was the thing to do, report them, otherwise you're going to get blamed too, right? But I don't feel like that's really far off. Like, if you look where we're at with current events in the world, there's some sketchy shit going on. And especially like the uber right-wing political spectrum, everybody else is the enemy, right? It's like, if you don't worship Donald Trump in the fucking church, then you're a problem. And they are looking for, it's the energy of looking for a way to get rid of you, to make you not be a problem, because you are challenging their way of existing. I actually have been having this thought lately. I think it would be awesome. I don't, I mean, my stuff is like all abstract and whatnot, giving me, or like having me do something specific that looks like anything specific, that doesn't really, if it does, it's a fluke. But I don't practice it very much either. However, I keep having, like, seeing this, like, what I want to see is, I want to see somebody that takes the, you know, those nice pictures of all the religious, the churchy people around him with they all got the hands on him and praying for him and all this bullshit. I feel like it would be really cool if we could capture the true energy behind that. And, you know, somebody could paint it instead where they're all reaching under the table to, you know, kind of touch his little teeny peeny, and he's kissing their asses because they're giving him his way and, you know, servicing him the way he wants from them. And so, you know, that mutually beneficial thing with the, or where the, you know, where the church and politics are fuck buddies, right? So I feel like if somebody could capture that, that would be fucking fantastic. And, you know, like, fucking post that all over the internet, and, you know, let's go worldwide on that shit. So it's just like, pops up. Because that's exactly what's going on, right? Energetically speaking, they're absolutely, stroking him under the table because he's giving them what they want, right? He is claiming to do things to get that pat on the back by the church, so they'll give him what he wants. Right? That's how religion and politics work. They are like servicing each other and fucking the rest of us over. So I really would love to see somebody put that painting together and blast that shit everywhere. Cause it's true. Anyway. And then that too is one of those things that, they don't like what I would say. So, because I'm pretty sure I wrote that down in the journal too. So if they saw that, how could they get me in trouble and get rid of me that way, right? So, yeah, I feel like there is absolutely history in this whole thing, and like this is nothing new. And especially if you think, okay, if we are all aspects of the divine, we are all essentially, our lives are just reference points. These are the things that lead up to this event, or that led up to this event, and then, this is what happened from there, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But if we are all aspects of the divine, then essentially, everybody you meet, and everybody that's ever been, is just, I had a bug go in the vent, is just, you are me, I am you, kind of a thing, right? It's like we are all spirit. We are all divine, sovereign beings. Religion and government don't want us to know that. They don't want us to have access to that point. So the fact that so many of us are waking up currently to these things and are getting louder, they know that their power is slipping. They know it is a matter of time before everything that exists in the way that it has been existing for so long all crumbles, right? This is not going to, like, we are ushering in the new era of being where, we remember our own sovereignty, and we don't allow people to treat us like shit just because we've been conditioned to allow everybody to treat us like shit, which is exactly what the church is doing, right? So watched a video earlier where this guy was talking about churchianity. It's like, yeah, that. Yeah, but like, and then like thinking about like the videos I've seen of, like camp counselors telling little kids at camp that, you deserve to die. All that bullshit. And, it's because God, whatever, I don't even know what the girl was saying, but I remember I watched it and it pissed me off, and it pissed off the poster or the person that had posted it and was commenting on it, and a whole lot of other people in the comments that were commenting on it beyond that, right? It's just one of those things. It's like, literally, that is the conditioning that we've received. And through the energetic cords that I talk about a lot, it's like, we received it at these much deeper levels than a lot of us even realized, which is, why it's such a pain in the ass to, go through this whole awakening thing and do the healing work, and all that fun stuff. So yeah. Anyway, I had a couple nights ago, okay, after the last video I did, I think this was Sunday, I know it was Sunday because yesterday was Monday and today is Tuesday, and yesterday was the only day I skipped. Excuse me. But I had this vision that I was writing about, and because it's one of those things, it's like, as I was journaling, it came to me. And what I saw was basically, because I've talked about a few times that I've seen it where, like, any given video that I do, it's like, it's part of a lotus petal, right? And this was like a new spin on that. It's like, from that perspective, it's like all the stories that I'm telling is a means of allowing for the flower to bloom, basically. But the way I was seeing it a couple days ago was as just like a strand, right? So what I ended up seeing was, it was just like, here's me as this little dot, and then here's all these little strands just kind of around the thing. And of course, what I'm immediately thinking of is the maypole, the thing where they have like the different strings or the different ribbons or whatever tied at the top, and then they're dancing around the maypole kind of a thing. The only reason that came to mind, I think, is because Gracie's last little school recital thing they did, her group did a little maypole thing, and they were just like walking around to the music. And of course, they're like in 3rd grade, so it's not real complicated or anything, but you can, you see the other versions of them where, the actual maypole things where they do much fancier things with the ribbons, but they just went around and then around the other way. But it looked kind of like that. But as I was seeing it initially, it was just like, okay, these different ribbons. But then, I also saw it as kind of like the eye of the storm, right? And so, there's like me in the middle, and like all the different stories that I've been telling, especially because I don't like to leave anything. Okay, like if I'm telling a story and I call back to something that happened when I was 8, I generally go back into a little bit of that story because I don't want people to have to look around extensively to realize why I went, or why I mentioned that point. I want enough of the story that you get what was going on and you get the context for what I'm working on talking through, in the process of me talking. But anyway, and like the big thing is, I don't want people to have to feel like to know anything or be able to connect with any of the stories that I tell on here, that there's a whole lot they have to go looking for. I want the stories to exist within the container, which is the video, right? The video is the container. I want that story to exist however they come out. And I know it's like all over the place, which is why I keep having to go back into them. But on that end, it's also because it's connected to so many other things, right? So it's like, this is a big part of why I struggle to start on anything, is because it always felt messy. Well, that's part of it, right? Like for me, it's navigating through the mess. It's clearing out the clutter. It's getting it so the stories are now outside of my system and they exist in a space where you can follow my train of thought, basically. Whether you remember I started telling this story and then never got back to it, or get distracted by the fact that I misspoke somewhere, because I do that a lot. And even that is a necessary thing, I think, because, going back to when I started going back to church after my suicide attempt, and then jumped into getting baptized and all that stuff, because I was trying to make all the bad, difficult, hard stuff go away, right? And I want God to forgive me for that stuff and then move past it, right? But there was this moment where it was like I was given a glimpse behind the veil, and kind of the assurance that there is better out there. There is so much more going on right now than you are even aware of, and you don't have to have it this difficult. But I remember thinking that if only one person benefits from my having gone through a certain experience, it will still have been worth it for that one person, right? And I guess that's a big part of why my stories are kind of all over the place, is because they're all connected. I mean, a lot of them are just the same stories told slightly differently, or from a different angle, or I'm looking at this wound now and not just this wound, and kind of navigating that healing process. And it's messy. It is, right? But if only one person needs to hear that part of the story, it's still a connecting point, right? So as I was saying, like, okay, we'll go back to the maypole example, even though it was more the eye of a storm kind of a thing. I started seeing like these little red X's on the ribbon in this example, right? And the X's were convergence points, right? So that's a part of the story where somebody else connects to it, right? So maybe it's just one part of the whole video that they get something out of and they feel connected to. But still, that is an important piece of it, right? So that's that the fact that we converged at the X, that's where we established this common ground kind of chord, life-giving chord, is the big focus here, and going on that end of it. Okay, so I talk a lot about the chords, right? And the life-giving chords, the chords are the relationships that you're meant to have in your life that are life-giving, that you show up as you are, and the other person shows up as they authentically are, and you benefit from this shared agreement, like I mentioned before, except for that one is life-sucking for all the rest of us, right? So church and politics benefit from their little under-the-table handjob business while all the rest of us are getting fucked over, but the rest of us are getting fucked over. But they've established these essentially ways to suck the life out of all of us, right? So through their mutual benefit, they are fucking all of the rest of us, right? And this is like so far beyond just what's going on in this country. This is like, there's different versions of it and different degrees of it kind of on a worldwide basis, right? So, especially anywhere that the church has gone in trying to proselytize people and, kill off entire groups of people to force them to believe the way that the church wants them to believe, because if they believe what the church wants them to believe, then they become controllable, right? Because you exist in a state of fear and do everything because you're afraid of doing the wrong thing, basically, right? So, anyway, I had this thought where, okay, I've talked a lot about the silver chords, which are the life-sucking ones, right? That's where the energy vampires and all that stuff. So, like, all the connections that I have with my family, for the most part, they're the ones that have sucked the life out of me. My grandfather, my grandmother, my parents. It was all ways they were able to latch onto my energy to suck the life out of me, right? So I remember at one point I was talking about, I think I was over at my brother's house. Finger locked up. I was doing a video where I was talking about the silver chords. And then afterwards, I remember, I was like, was it silver? And of course, red was the life-giving ones. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. But then I heard something that was talking about the silver thread that keeps you connected to your body. And so, like, when you sleep, when you dream, and, since there's so much more to who you are than what you experience in the physical and all this stuff. Like, when you're asleep, your body needs to sleep. Your soul doesn't need to sleep. The soul gets bored, right? So the soul can go do other things and travel other places, astral travel, all the lucid dreaming, all these fun things, right? So then I was thinking, well, but if it's, I was thinking of it as karmic connections, But then is that the same thing as with your body? And it is. You're karmically connected to your body. Your body is not who you are. Your body is just the vessel that you have to your rental car for this lifetime, right? Your soul's rental car. You don't get to keep it forever, but you can do whatever with it while you're here, right? So, and then when you go off into the dream state, you're still connected to your body by the silver thread. I was like, so that's the same thing. It's you're karmically connected to your body. Right? So, anyway, my feels like it's twitching all at once. Don't mind me. Yeah. But ideally we align with people where we're able to be the full authentic expression of who we are and who we are here to be, and we find other people that are doing that with their own authenticity, with who they are here to be as well, and then we connect and are able to create something better, something more beautiful from the collaboration, right? And right, so those are the red threads. Those are the life-giving threads, right? So like the one vision that I had with the twin flame, where we merged with and within the red cord, and because we merged with and within this red cord, and I just what popped into my mind, and this is so silly, but I watched Krampus today. I got a message from the library that I had a bunch of stuff that was due back today. Krampus was one of them, and I wanted to rewatch it. I love that movie, and I think every time I watch it, I like it more. And so I watched it. I've only watched it like 3 or 4 times, but still, I watched it. And like there's a scene with the massive Jack-in-the-Box that's like eating the kid. It's like that was kind of what came to mind when I was thinking about that. But that Jack-in-the-Box thing, that was definitely like silver whitish looking. So as not that that's relevant for this. It's just that was the thing that popped into my mind since I watched it just a little bit ago. So yeah. Anyway, never mind my little tangents. Last night when I was getting ready to go to bed, I spent some time writing. Last night I didn't spend as much time writing. Last night I kind of got stuck in, I got sidetracked with something on social media again, and then I just kind of went down the rabbit hole, right? Like happens with social media. Like it's the algorithm set up to kind of pull you in and keep you locked in so you can't go back to the high frequency place. And I woke up in a great mood yesterday, and like I was seeing like the timelines of, I've talked about adopting kids on here before, and that's something that I feel like there's going to be like at least 3 or 4. Obviously not today, but when I woke up yesterday, it was like I was in this other space talking to these kids that I don't have, and kind of just talking about life and my journey, and they'd asked me questions or something, and I don't even remember exactly what it was, but that space, like just the things that came to mind with that train of thought is like really high vibe. I was feeling amazing. It was one of those dancing in the shower kind of days. And I had my sappy music going, so it was one of those days, right? But it was like at the start of the day I was like way up here. And then when I ended up on this spiral with the social media stuff, then it was like it's just I just killed how much time on nothing again. Anyway, as I turned the light off and rolled over, I started trying to get myself prepared to sleep. My intuition, my spirit guides perhaps, started in with, I don't even remember what the exact thought was, but I heard so very loud and clear. Like, I saw what my posters on my hutch flashed into my mind first. Again, those are right, the universe provides, trust the process. And I've talked about that a lot, about how they are their own individual message, but then they are the combined message as well, because I am meant to be writing. And I think I had commented on something on Facebook, and I got on kind of a little bit of a roll, and I did write about the thing with the art. And yeah. But anyway, I got on this tangent, and like anytime I get on a tangent with comments, that's one thing I do like about social media, is once my wheels get turning and I'm writing something, it might end up being a big long spiel. I try not to have them be too long on there, but they can get pretty long because that's just how I am. But distracted by the damn motorcycle or truck or whatever. But I had the comment, and then I turned the light off when I was getting ready for bed. And that message, because I did write the comment, what I put in the comment, down in my journal. That was the last thing I wrote there. So when I turn the light off and I'm going to bed, the voice chimes in with, "Write, why are you not fucking writing?" It's like, good question. So then this morning, like when I woke up, and that was the thing that came back to mind. I did spend some time writing this morning, and interestingly, one of the things that popped up this morning was, so I follow this Aaron Parnas on social media. He's like basically where I get most of my news from, because it's like, it's easier than having to go look. And I trust that he's trying to be true to who he is and what he's here to do. He is genuinely trying to report what needs to be reported, what is in the news, right? Let the people who are doing the checking, yes, do your own checking if you really need to see something. And don't just take everything at face value, but if it's something that comes up and you trust them, you trust that they are authentic and authentically trying to help and make the world a better place, then once you believe it, roll with it. You don't have to question it every single time, unless he says something that's just so completely off the wall. It's like, that can't possibly be real, just to find out that it is real. The fuck, because this is a really jacked up world we live in at the moment, right? But anyway, so that's where I get most of my news from at this point in time. But him and this other guy, one of the few veterans pages that I still follow, because like I said, I had to clear a bunch out when I just realized I kept getting sucked right back into the negative all the time. It's like, no, this is too much. I don't want this much. But there's a few that I didn't lose on there. But there were some, there's just like, this keeps going really negative and I can't keep doing this and I don't want to keep doing this. So I unfollowed a bunch. But then there's others that it's like, I like still knowing that there are people doing what they're here to do, even though it puts them under threat of attack by the fucking government. The one guy was talking about knowing he is on, because he's got a social media platform, knowing he is on one of the pedophile in chief's, essential lists for concerns, in case somebody wants to just take them out sometime, right? So, yeah. You know, like the video that he did on that where he was talking about that, and then he talked about this was Kris Goldsmith, I think was his name. And just him talking about the fact that he's on it, and the fact that he has family literally concerned for his safety because the fucking government is like as toxic as it is currently. And I have a friend from high school that he posts things on Facebook periodically, and of course he's gay, so he's got stuff with concerns on that end of things, right? So like when he tries to not just come off as a dick, you know, he tries to express, is it possible that something that you're receiving is not 100%, that, you know, the something that you're getting is just being, you know, piped into you is a problem, kind of a thing. And I commented on something that he had written, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but the nature of it was, it goes back to that, you know, basically Republicans, the right wing, or the toxic, abusive, narcissistic husband, you know, trying to keep everybody in a state of fear and chaos where they can't do anything else. And essentially the blue, the Democrats, are, you know, more often they tend to be on the abused wife that is trying to keep the peace, or wants to be able to have change and have things be better for everybody else, but because they're still kind of under the thumb of the abusive husband, you know, going back to like my family situation, right? My grandfather, where my grandmother was under his thumb enough, she entered into the agreement to forever enable his bullshit, and she stuck to that. She still sticks to that, right? So it's like, that's what that is. Right now, it's just, I'm able to see it at my home level, but I'm able to see at how it's playing out at this much bigger world stage level, right? So, you know, but what I said with him was, but complacency is still complacency, and, you know, okay, so I know there are a lot of people, left-leaning, that talk about not bowing to their tactics, right? To the toxic right-wing side. They don't want to lower themselves to that standard, right? But then there are other people that are like, you gotta do something, right? Because they're literally running over the top of us, right? But that's why I have a problem with both sides, is because one side being wishy-washy isn't going to get anything done either, right? So, and it's all, I feel like the whole system is coming down. It is time to be revamped. And, you know, I am confident that there are many red and blue that are on that list that, you know, the red keeps trying to bury and try to distract us away from. You know, there's both sides, right? And at the end of the day, it took both red and blue to get to the point where we are at today, right? And it was just because they've manipulated the system so that we can only have two parties, because if there's a third option and somebody votes for them, then you're told that you threw your vote away, right? Well, that was a wasted vote. No, it was trying to have hope that something else could come across. But, you know, that's one of those things. It's like voting, absolutely. Okay, I think we need to take the parts of the system that worked. Voting, yes. Electoral college and all that bullshit, no. Every vote fucking counts, right? And it doesn't matter who you are, how long you've been here, what your skin color is, any of those inane things that they, try to distract us with. It's like every vote needs to fucking count. And, where we need more than 2 fucking options, because they literally give us, shit in most cases, but also it's the ones that are pulling the strings that were as long as they keep us divided, they're happy. And it doesn't matter who's in power, because the ones pulling the strings are ultimately the ones that are in power. So, as long as they keep us distracted and fighting each other, then they can do whatever the fuck they want to screw us all over, right? And to make the whole system fucked up, right? So that's changing because we the people are pissed. And yeah, and I think that that's the biggest thing with the storytelling end of things. Like, whatever it is that you're meant to share, there's a reason for it, right? So even if my stories are chaotic and sound like they're all over the place, and sometimes they feel like that for me while I'm talking through them, it's still been an important part of the process of unraveling the chaos. And it's the chaos that, like when I talked about my walls that I painted, that chaos was in my system because I didn't skate it out of my system. Right, so it's like when we need to touch grass. That's the big thing. I try to be out in nature as much as possible where I can these days, right? And not just playing on my phone all the time. And sometimes it's real easy to get sucked into it because, that's what it's set up to do, is suck you in so it can keep sucking the life out of you. But you start making the decisions to move away from the stuff that just, the energy vampires. It's like all those things. Okay, one of the things that I started writing this morning was talking about the seeds that get planted, right? And, I talked about whatever you listen to, whatever you take in through your ear holes and your eyeballs, that plants a seed in your brain, right? And then you start to see more and more of that in the world around you. So when I started writing this thing today, and I'm not going to go to bed tonight until I finish it and get it posted on, I have my vocal media thing, and then I'm going to look into Substack. I might not get that done today, but and it's not something, I have no followers because I don't even have an account yet on there, right? So it's not something that will probably get many views in that space. But the other space, it could potentially get some views. So that is the space it needs to go in for right now, right? So, but it's one of those things. It's like I write. The universe provides. Trust the damn process, right? So writing is a big part of what I'm meant to be doing now. And the thing with the writing is it allows me to see things more coherently rather than when I'm talking through them and it's like, oh, this leads to this, leads to this, leads to this, and now I'm talking about God knows what, and it might not seem like it's anywhere near related to that, and yet somehow I got there. So there is some kind of relevancy there. But when I'm just talking, it feels way less cohesive. But whereas when I write, then of course I tend to go back and read and reread and reread and and catch the typos, catch the the stuff that I said something and then it's like, does that make sense? Does that sound like something not like what I mean for it to sound like? All those things. And this is that space of where my my overthinking gets really complicated. But I was thinking about that today too. It's like the kind of person that I am and the way that my brain works yeah, okay, that idea of jack of all trades, master of none. It's kind of that sort of idea, but and I know there is more to that saying than just that. I've heard it before, and I don't think that's relevant for what I'm specifically trying to say. But yes, I respect the point that there is more to that. However, for the jack of all trades, master of none thing, it's just that sense of there's so much. It's such a broad range of things that I have little small pieces of information about, because part of what I'm here to do is bring them together and make them make sense cohesively, right? So and now I'm thinking of the seed of life, right, which is, or the flower of life, which is the 19 circles, right? So 19 circles, there's 5 in the middle, and then there's 4 on either side of that, and then like 3 beyond that. But it's all 19, and they're all overlapping. So, it's like that kind of thing. It's like it's all in one big circle, but there's still all these little circles where like that information can possibly come from or fit into, and it's bringing it together to make sense of it. So like large scale coming together kind of a thing, right? So there are other people, thank God, that know more of the like, the little details, and they are able to go really specific on certain things. That's not me. And I've talked on here a few times too about how like there's a lot of stuff where I do have to look up where I get, or like the information, because I don't remember if I heard this somewhere, or if I got it from like, if it was like a clairaudience thing where I picked it up from something, essentially from the collective, right? So somebody else put this little piece of the puzzle in there. It's like, is this the flow state? Is this source pulling it back to me? Because going back to that point of whatever you do that you are able to do and connect to the flow state. Flow state equals allowing the divine to express itself, right? So ultimately channeling, right? So if you're in flow, then you are channeling, and what comes together, if there's something that needs to be presented to the collective, that's where it's going to come up at, right? So the universe or the source, whatever, will bring an idea forth, and if you are given the idea and you do nothing with it, it's going to move on to the next person, because that information that is in the collective unconscious is trying to find a way to surface, because somebody needs that information, right? So, whatever you do, it was the Gaia channel, it was an ad for them where they're talking about, all of those things, writing, art, music, those are all forms of channeling, because it's allowing, and this part is from my Animal Apothecary deck, it's allowing the universe to express through you, right? So, ouch. Fingers locked up again. Yeah. So, whatever you do that you can tap into that flow state, and especially if it comes to using your voice or some other form of expression, art, music, whatever, that's still channeling, right? And I talk about music a lot because that's something that's huge for me and huge for helping me make sense of these other things. And I've talked on here a lot, I've said a lot about how I feel like metal music is a big part of where the awakening stuff is coming from, or where some of the big shifts are coming from. And I absolutely hold to that. However, I also was thinking about today, it's like, that's not for everybody, right? 444. And That's something that is teaching me, like, what I am seeing of, like, the different groups that are working in collaboration together, and they're creating more. It's getting the energies moving in the same direction, right? So okay, like, the other day, I don't know if it's something, it might be what I specifically said in a video. It might be something that I talked to my brother about, because we talk a lot about these things a lot. But one thing I was saying to him was like, okay, so we have, like, okay. It's like, there are essentially the beacons, right? So, like, Metallica, like Ozzy Osborne, and, if we want to go other directions, Keanu Reeves, Fraser, those are some that were, like, some of the most prominent beacons for me. They were, like, the expression, like, the art that they put out into the world was something that it stuck with me, right? Something about their expression meant a lot for me and helped me in my journey, right? And so since they are figures that have had some kind of prominent everybody loves Keanu. And, like, Fraser, I know he kind of fell off the planet for a while, because there was a bunch of, I saw something that was talking about a lot of stuff that he was going through for a while, and basically he tried to speak out and use his platform, and then got, like, blacklisted or whatever, right? So, like, they tried to squash him down, and, like, for a while, like, you didn't hear anything about him, but it was just so weird. I remember, he was in Encino Man, George of the Jungle. Absolutely loved those freaking movies. Airheads. And then somewhere along the line, it was like he just disappeared. And I remember, like, there was a span of time where I didn't hear anything about him, and then I was like, what happened to him? And then that idea being a seed of sorts as well, then eventually, it took me down this path where I was able to hear that, he had some shit going on, and, they tried to squash him, basically. But it's like, I saw him do an interview with some girl where she was talking about how glad people were that he was coming back and that he was still around. And, like, him getting on the verge of tears because he was so touched by what was being said. And it's like, that point of, when you're going through shit and you feel like you're completely alone, and then finding out that there are people rooting for you, it's like, that hits, right? So, which there again, I think, is a big part of the purpose of what I'm doing here too, is, I've shared most of my shit. It's like, I'm pretty much an open book at this point. It's like, the more comfortable I get in this space, the more I'm willing to talk about, like, stuff that I couldn't imagine talking about starting out. And it was just like, somebody needs this, right? At some point in time, somebody's going to come across this video that needs this part of this message too. So just put it out there. And, like, those are those convergence points where, we're building bridges, right? So where we connect to other people that are here for this bridge building thing, then, that's something that's one of those, I was seeing them as red X's, so we'll see them as red X's, because red is the life-giving, right? That's the life-giving energy, so, and source energy and all that fun stuff. So your soul connections, the ones that are meant to be in your life, or, like, convergence points, like, maybe we aren't meant to meet in person or anything, but maybe something you hear in one of my stories gives you something to connect to, so that becomes one of those convergence points, right? It was like, I Also been watching Final Destination. I am glad that I watched those. I watched them in like a 3 or 4 day span of time. So I saw them all together. I had never watched any of them before, but I watched 1 through 5. And then by the time I got to 5, and it's like, and then I like watched the thing where it was talking about it afterwards, and it's like, oh, that makes so much sense, but like I didn't know that before. But anyway, that's completely irrelevant. But the part that was relevant is because I was thinking of like, there's like a scene with like, there's various scenes where you see like the screws that hold the pieces together or whatever start shaking loose for whatever it is. It's like, that's like a convergence point kind of a thing, right? That's where, you get some of the strength. This screw is connecting the two things together for this building project, right? So it's like, it's the convergence points for, I don't know, for whatever. But just having where 111 we those connection points, and even if I don't realize for somebody it's a connection point, the fact still remains that somebody probably needed something in that, right? So the fact that I've been doing these, that I'm pushing 300 at this point, I think I'm at like 291, 292-ish. It's the universe it knows exactly what I've talked about in any of those videos, right? So at any point, you just flash my face up across somebody's screen, and then maybe they're like, what the fuck's she talking about? And then maybe there's something in that they need, right? So it's like the universe, the collective conscious, is aware, the collective unconscious in a lot of ways, but also as it's becoming more conscious, but still, like, the universe, all that is, knows that's there and knows where each thing is talked about. So, like, when I first started leaning into the idea of the twin flame thing, right? So, okay, I turned my love and career lives over to the universe to take the lead on. And then I get caught up on this song that I just listened to over and over again, right? And I cannot get enough of it. And then it was just one of those things, just like, it's like I feel this all the way through, like the energy of the song and just like what he was saying. And it just felt like a connection point, right? I needed to hear what was in the energy that was in the song, right? And then as I'm listening to it, after I've made this commitment of, letting the universe take my love and career lives over and take the lead on those, then I'm watching this music video of this guy singing, and then this, that intuitive voice that chimes in and says, that's him. That's the one you've been looking for all your life. I was like, yeah, right. Because like that big, of course, what I said was, yeah, right, he's out of my league. But that point of universe is literally just waiting on me to let it take the lead, because everything that I've done of my own accord has been kind of shit. Right? So it's like, and the career part too, right? So like the fact that I started doing this YouTube thing, not made any kind of money off of it or anything, but the fact that I'm still doing it and showing up for it is that way of committing, of continuing that commitment to the universe, that this is the thing that I am doing right now. And, it's not, this is the only thing I'm supposed to do. It's not by any means, and obviously if it's not making me money, then it's not really something that's, I can't just afford to not ever make money. So right now I'm finding that elsewhere. But like, showing up and doing the things you're meant to do, like writing. That's a big thing that I've known probably the longest that I was supposed to do but I keep pulling myself back. I keep holding back. And it's less, I think it's less about the worthiness wound and the self-sabotage end of it. I mean, the self-sabotage end of it's still probably a big part, but it just that resistance. It's like I have to push through that resistance on the writing end of it. But anyway, going back to the twin flame thing, because that was where that, but why was I there? Following, I guess. Okay, so make the commitment, listen to the music, then this idea pops into my head, this intuitive voice thing that says, that's the one you've been looking for all your life. What was the specific, I remember saying something that's why the twin flame part of this has been so important, or something to that effect. And yeah, the biggest thing on that end is it's the thing that has kept pulling me outside of myself anytime I've been trying to shrink back down, and things are all over the place, to shrink back down and go into hiding, like all the dreams that I had where I was in the bathroom, because I absolutely spent a lot of time hiding out in the bathroom, like all throughout school and all that stuff. It's like, that was the safe space because less people saw me and less people were latched on to my energy that way, right? So it was like, I go from class to the bathroom to my locker if need be, and if I had enough time to kill before going to the next class, then I might pop into the bathroom again closer to the next location, just so I didn't have to interact with my peers, because that never went well and I never liked doing it. So because of that whole safety thing. Yeah. But the twin flame thing, that's been the one thing that's like, I can't just walk away from that. It's like that. It's like the visions. It's like so many of the visions that I've had where I've made sense of things, or where I've started to see things differently, has come up because of something that I connected to because of this whole twin flame connection. So like the one where I talked about the vision where I saw him sending me flowers, and then it was like the vision got stuck and I just kept getting flowers, and they kept, like, they didn't go away. There was just like all these flowers in this space until I panicked and said, stop, I don't deserve this. And then it was, why do you feel you don't deserve this? It's like, now we're going into the deep stuff, right? So the fact that I've had this thing to keep taking me into these deep, dark places, and, essentially going back to my my dark goddess archetype with Hecate, where, going into the darkness and there is light there. So my intuition, this twin flame connection, my soul is this light guiding me. And right, so it shows up, the way it guides me in a lot of ways is through visions because of this connection. And it's like, and then next thing I know, I'm crying in a video because I had to deal with some heavy shit. But it's like the fact that there has been something that has been able to push me into going to those places where I can talk about the heavy shit and start to navigate through that stuff as well. I think that's, because the twin flame connection, it's not for everybody. And the biggest reason it is for me is because there's some really dark, scary places that I've had to go, and that I always kept trying to shrink back from. And it's the thing that says, you can't shrink anymore, you have to keep going. And then, so I do the video, I cry my way through it. Somebody somewhere at some point in time is going to need something that I said in the video. And that's where, we come back to that convergence point, right? Whether I'm ever aware of who they are or anything else, they at least know through my storytelling that there is somebody else out there who gets it, at some level, right? Or gets some aspect of what they were talking about. Those are driving me nuts today. I tried to dry them, and they never dry straight. I don't think they're straight anyway, which is why I've decided to grow them out and then try again. Since part of them exist because my hair broke with the bleach drama. I mean, obviously I haven't bleached it for a while. It kind of needs it in a bad way. And this part hasn't been bleached enough, so it doesn't hold the color real well. But anyway, that's kind of irrelevant. Anyway, I think that's enough video for this time. At this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and then go home and, watch it and post it and finish the thing that I've been working on writing and get that fucking posted, and then spend some time packing some shit up. Because I need to. Because it is time. The universe is nudging me in that direction. It's time to do the things, right? And before it has to yell at me at other things too, like that whole writing thing last night. Write. Why are you not fucking writing? It's like, yep, okay, I get it. Message received. Stop distracting myself, right? Anyway, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.